That evening, the Moores gathered for their usual Sabbath dinner. Martha tended a bubbling vat of chicken stew that hung on an iron hook above the crackling fire, mopping sweat from her brow with the back of her hand. While she hunched over the hearth, Anna mixed batter bread with both hands, folding in fistfuls of flax seeds and crushed walnuts, singing hymns as she worked. Immanuelle ducked between the two of them, taking on different tasks and trying her best to be of help. She was clumsy in the kitchen, but she did what she could to aid them. Anna, ever cheerful, was the first to break the silence. "It was a good service this morning, wasn't it?" Immanuelle set a pewter plate down at the head of the table before her grandfather's empty chair. "That it was." Martha said nothing. Anna plunged her fists into the bread dough again. "When the prophet spoke, I felt like the air had been sucked right out of me. He's a true man of the Father, that one. More so than other prophets, even. We're lucky to have him." Immanuelle set one spoon beside Martha's plate and another beside Honor's bowl. A little wooden thing she'd carved and polished some 3 summers ago, when the child had been no bigger than a minnow in Anna's womb. For Anna's eldest, Glory, she reserved the brass spoon she liked best, an antique Martha had bought from a market peddler years ago. Glory, like her mother, had an appetite for pretty things, ribbons and lace and sweets, and other delights the Moores couldn't afford. But when she could, Immanuelle tried her best to oblige the girl with little tokens. There were so few pretty things left in the house. Most of their treasures and trinkets had been sold during the thick of the winter in an attempt to make up for the bad reap and all the livestock they'd lost to sickness the past summer. But if Immanuelle had anything to say about it, Glory would have her spoon, a small token to offset their world of lack. When the meal was prepared, Martha carried the vat of stew to the table and set it down with a loud thump that carried through the house. At the sound, Honor and Glory raced into the dining room, eager to fill their seats and eat. The wives sat next, Immanuelle's grandmother, Martha, claiming her place at the opposite end of the table, as was custom, and Anna, second wife of Immanuelle's grandfather, claiming the seat beside her husband's empty chair. After a few long moments, there was the groan of hinges, the sound of a door opening, then the pained and shuffling racket of Abram making his way down the stairs. Her grandfather was having a bad day. Immanuelle could tell by the sound of his gait, the way his stiff foot dragged across the groaning floorboards as he moved toward the table. He had skipped church again that morning, making it the 3rd Sabbath he'd missed in a month. Once, long ago, Abram had been an apostle, and a powerful one, too. He had been the right hand of Simon Chambers, the prophet who served before the current prophet, Grant Chambers, had been chosen and ordained. As such, Abram had once owned one of the 7 estates in the sacred holy grounds, and he had wielded the Father's gift of discernment. At age 19, he married Martha. The two of them were well yoked, both in age and in status. But despite this, the Father did not bless them with children for a long time. In fact, after years of trying, Abram and Martha were only able to conceive Miriam, and her birth was succeeded by a series of stillborns, all of them sons. Many later claimed that Miriam's birth damned the children who were born after her, said that her very existence was a plague to the good Moore name. On account of Miriam's crimes, Abram had been stripped of his title as apostle, and all the lands that went with it. The Moorstead, which had once been a rolling range, so big it rivaled the prophets, was divided up among the other apostles and nearby farmers, who picked it apart like vultures do a carcass. Abram had been left with a small fragment of the land he once owned, shadowed by the same rambling forest to which he'd lost his daughter. Such was the life he lived now, in ridicule and squalor, scraping together an existence from the meager reap of pastures and blighted cornfields that were his only claim.